In the very beginning, before time as we know it, there was a garden. Not just any garden, but a paradise named Eden. It was a place of breathtaking beauty, where rivers flowed with crystal clear water and trees bore the most delicious fruits. Flowers bloomed in a riot of color, and animals of every kind lived in perfect harmony. And in the heart of this perfect world, the story of humanity began. This story starts with a being named Adam, the very first human. He wasn't born. He was crafted with care from the dust of the earth. Imagine that. The very ground we walk on became the building block for the first man. He was given the breath of life and became a living soul. God placed him in the Garden of Eden and gave him a special job, to tend to it, to care for all the plants and animals. Adam had everything he could possibly want. The sun warmed his skin, the sweetest fruits were his for the picking, and he walked in a world without fear or sadness. As Adam explored his magnificent home, he was given another important task. He was to name all the animals. Can you picture it? The lion, the eagle, the dolphin, each one was brought before Adam, and he gave them their names. The mighty lion, the soaring eagle, the playful dolphin. It was a parade of creation, and Adam was at the center of it all, a steward of this new world. He had companionship with every creature, but as time went on, it became clear that among all the living things, there was no one quite like him. He was unique. And so, it was decided that Adam shouldn't be alone. While he was in a deep sleep, a companion was created for him. Not from the dust of the ground, but from his very own side. When Adam awoke and saw her, he recognized her instantly as bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. He named her Eve, which means mother of all living, because she was destined to be just that. Together they were the perfect pair, partners in paradise sharing the wonders of Eden side by side. They were innocent, without a hint of shame or self-consciousness, living in pure harmony with each other and their surroundings. In the center of this glorious garden stood two very special trees. One was the tree of life whose fruit granted eternal life. The other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve were given a simple, single instruction. You can eat from any tree in the garden, enjoy all the abundance around you, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The moment you do, you will surely face consequences. It was the one and only rule in a world of complete freedom, a test of their trust and obedience. For a time, everything was perfect. They walked with God in the cool of the day, cared for the garden, and enjoyed their perfect existence. But paradise was about to be challenged. A new character enters our story, a serpent described as more crafty than any of the other wild animals. This serpent approached Eve with a seemingly innocent question. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? It was a subtle twist of words designed to plant a seed of doubt. Eve, honest and direct, corrected the serpent. She explained, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" She knew the rule. She understood the boundary that had been set, but the serpent was clever. It didn't argue. It contradicted. "You will not certainly die," the serpent hissed. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." This was the moment of temptation. The serpent presented the forbidden fruit not as a source of death, but as a source of power, of enlightenment, of becoming like God himself. Eve looked at the fruit. It was beautiful to the eye, it looked delicious, and the promise of gaining wisdom was incredibly tempting. The seed of doubt began to sprout. Was this rule really for her protection, or was it to hold her back from something greater? The desire for knowledge, to see the world in a new way, began to overpower the simple instruction she had been given. In that critical moment, Eve made a choice. She reached out, took the fruit, and ate it. The world didn't end. The sky didn't fall. But something profound and irreversible had just happened. Then she gave some of the fruit to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. He didn't question her. He didn't refuse. He joined her in the act of disobedience. They were in it together, and in that shared moment, everything changed. Instantly, their eyes were open, just as the serpent had promised. But what they saw was not what they expected. They didn't feel like gods. Instead, For the very first time, they felt shame. They looked at each other and realized they were naked. This pure natural state that had been their norm was now a source of embarrassment. They scrambled to cover themselves, sewing fig leaves together to make coverings. Their innocence was gone, replaced by self-awareness, fear, and guilt. The harmony they had known was shattered. That evening, they heard a familiar sound, the sound of God walking in the garden. But this time, instead of running to greet him, they ran away. They hid among the trees, trying to conceal themselves. Fear had entered their hearts for the first time. God called out, "Where are you?" It wasn't that he didn't know their location. It was a call for them to come forward to face what they had done. Adam, his voice trembling, replied, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked. So I hid." The conversation that followed was one of accountability. God asked the simple question, "Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" And this is where the blame game began. Adam, instead of taking responsibility, pointed his finger. "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." He blamed Eve and even subtly blamed God for giving her to him. Then God turned to Eve and asked, "What is this you have done?" Eve in turn blamed the serpent. "The serpent deceived me and I ate." No one was willing to own their choice. But the choices had been made and consequences were inevitable. First, the serpent was cursed, condemned to crawl on its belly and be an enemy to humanity forever. Then, Eve was told she would experience pain in childbirth and that her relationship with her husband would be one of conflict and desire. And Adam, because he listened to his wife over the command of God, was told that the ground itself would be cursed because of him. From now on, he would have to work hard, toiling and sweating to get food from the very earth he was made from. And finally, they were told that their physical bodies would now be mortal. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Their time in paradise was over. To prevent them from reaching out and eating from the tree of life and living forever in their fallen state, God made them garments of skin to clothe them and then banished them from the Garden of Eden. He placed mighty angelic beings, called cherubim, and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. Adam and Eve were sent out into the wider world, a world that was now more difficult, filled with hardship, pain, and eventually death. But even in this moment of expulsion, there was a glimmer of hope. In the curse given to the serpent, there was a promise. It was foretold that a descendant of Eve would one day come and crush the head of the serpent. This was the first hint of a future redemption, a promise that the tragedy of this day would not be the final word in the story of humanity. The journey outside of Eden would be long and difficult, but it would not be without hope for a way back, for restoration. The story of Adam and Eve is more than just an ancient tale. It's a foundational story about choices and consequences, about innocence lost and the origin of human struggle. It explores themes of temptation, blame, and the painful separation that can come from broken trust. Yet, it also introduces the idea of hope and redemption, a theme that echoes throughout the rest of history. It is the very beginning of a much larger narrative about humanity's journey, a journey that started in a perfect garden and continues to this day. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that have shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what you think is the most important lesson from the story of Adam and Eve. See you in the next video.